Dream interpretation? No, not that country. Yes, that country.
In simpler words, analyzing your dreams or assigning a meaning to your dreams. Wait, that sounds like some hippie nonsense. And it kinda is. More of a pseudoscience, because there is actually no scientifically supported system for dream interpretation. And besides the 12 most common dreams articles, it really isn't for average human beings. It is, however, widely used by professional psychotherapists, despite being pretty challenging to carry out accurately. Why interpret dreams at all though? Does it even work? Now here's one example of how it's used. So usually when psychotherapists encounter someone smart, or a better word, creative, at a low point in their lives with a disordered personality, it's tougher to get them out of there. It's mainly so because such people are so good at rationalization. Nevertheless, the psychotherapist begins with what's called behavioral negotiation, basically asking said person to describe what's wrong with their lives and coming up with potential solutions. Now, typically these people are likely to come up with all sorts of excuses as to why these solutions could never work, which is when the psychotherapist turns to dream interpretation. That is, if these people do dream, now they use those dreams and interpret them so as to give them a solution, or rather a peek what's to be done or what's wrong. Now, even the so-called rational person cannot deny the significance of such a perspective, for it is, after all, a message from nature. Basically, you're unconscious. Now, how does it work? So there are two main theories of dream interpretation, put forward by Carl Gustav Jung and Sigmund
Freud.
Now, Freud believed dreams to be a manifestation of one's repressed desire, which, however, is the less popular notion of the two. So we'll be talking about Jungian dream interpretation. According to Carl Jung, the integration of one's conscious and unconscious experiences is integral to the process of individuation, or achieving unity and wholeness. Now, from his lens, dreams can be seen as the birthplace of thinking, because they're really good at fleshing out the unknown reality before you can get a real grip on it. They may be described as things you already know unconsciously, but may not have admitted them. However, since it is the birthplace of thinking, they are not clearly formulated, basically somewhat similar to appearance of a thought in your head. This was Jung's interpretation of dreams. He believed that dreams contain more information than what could be articulated by the person. While the objective view of dream analysis tells us to take the aspects of the dream as is, here we focus on the subjective view, which basically asks us to take components of a dream and represent them as parts of ourselves. Now, Jung related dreaming, rather the collective unconscious, to myths, and he came up with the concept of archetypes, or primitive mental images inherited from our earliest human ancestors, supposed to be present in our collective unconsciousness. Example being the concept of God or that of Mother Earth. There is also the concept of symbols, which are unique to the dreamer and may be different for everyone. Now, a lot of people use what are called dream dictionaries to decode symbols, but most of the times these are not recommended. Now, typically the process of interpreting your dreams involves writing down your dreams, making associations, and thus interpreting them. But your dreams will not tell you something you're aware of consciously. Hence, caution is advised. Most of the times, these are things you are already aware of unconsciously, but may not be ready to face them now. You may come to terms with them at a later point in your life, but interpreting your own dreams is not recommended, especially if you are kind of neurotic or overly emotional. Now, here's how Jung broke down one of his female clients' dreams. So the dream was full of visual imagery consistent of the client herself, trying to cross a river. There is no bridge, but a ford. While she is in the prospect of crossing the river, a giant crab from underneath seizes her by the foot and wouldn't let her go. According to the client's own associations, crossing the river represents overcoming a difficulty, perhaps her treatment. The crab may represent cancer, a horrible disease her friend Mrs. X died from. Evidently, the crab wanted to drag her into the river, and she was terrified. She also remarked that Mrs. X had an artistic and impulsive nature, which she felt was punished by cancer, especially since she had an affair with an artist following her husband's death. Now there were a number of symbols in this dream. However, objectively, the dream could be taken as is, the dreamer's fear of ending up following Mrs. X's footsteps. Jung's interpretation, however, was that the crab in the dream was pulling the dreamer back into the unconscious, the river, to confront the unacknowledged, not lived out, and unhumanized part of her own personality, her own artistic and impulsive nature, as well as her own masculine nature. The dream was trying to compensate for the absence of these qualities in her waking life. So he went through what's called the process of amplification. So Jung linked the foot with the myth of Osiris and Isis. He would not necessarily tell the patient this link, and concluded that the foot, as the organ nearest the earth, represents in dreams the relation to earthly reality, and often has a phallic significance. He also made a link to Oedipus, which literally means swell foot, which he understood as suspicious. In other words, someone who was not well related to reality, thus relating the dream to an archetypal level. The client, however, would not acknowledge the presence of her masculine traits with respect to that of her friend, which brought us to transference level, or the subject's relation to the interpreter. His patient told him that when she was not with him, Jung appeared to her as rather dangerous and sinister, like an evil magician or a demon. Jung therefore interpreted that he was acting as the dangerous masculine foot-gripping crab, bearing the projection of his patient's masculinity, and it was this dependent relationship with Jung, like that with her friend, which prevented her from crossing the river. When he suggested all this to the patient, she had an unexpected feeling of hatefulness and despising toward her friend. Jung suggests that the repression of the hateful masculine qualities was broken, and at that moment the patient entered a new phase of life without even knowing it. As you can see, dream interpretation is far from easy. In fact, in Jung's own words, I have noticed that dreams are as simple or as complicated as the dreamer himself. Only they are always a little bit ahead of the dreamer's consciousness. I do not understand my own dreams any better than any of you, for they are always somewhat beyond my grasp, and I have the same trouble with them as anyone who knows nothing about dream interpretation. Knowledge is no advantage when it is a matter of one's own dreams, and hence the true significance of dream interpretation remains inconclusive. But hey,
whatever helps you sleep at night.